Growing up in Australia with my 7 brothers, all we did, it seemed, was play sport. What sport? Every sport, any sport. Every day, come home from school, play sports. Had training after school, had training at lunchtime. We just loved playing sports. And when I was very young, the sports of my childhood were soccer and cricket. And one of the things I noticed was that when the action of the game came along, everything seemed to slow down, and then I watched back video of the game and it all happened so quickly, but when I was actually experiencing it, it was like it's happening in slow motion. As I've got older, I've had this experience in other areas of my life. Very often when I get up to speak, I have an hour to speak and it feels like it's 5 minutes and it's over. And I have this similar experience, when I get into the flow of my writing. Not always, not even most of the time. Most of the time, writing is difficult. It's hard work. If you wait to be inspired, you never finish a book. You have to will yourself to write and to write every day. But there are times when inspiration does flow and it is seemingly effortless and timeless. And this timelessness is a powerful experience that we should pay attention to anytime it crops up in our lives, because it is telling us something about ourselves, telling us something about our passions, telling us something about our talents and abilities. It's speaking to us in very, very powerful ways. I've spoken to you about stopping by a church for 10 minutes on the way to school, starting when I was about 15 years old. And over the next 3 or 4 years, 10 minutes turned to half an hour turned to an hour turned to 2, 3, 4 hours. I would go to church some days in the afternoon. I remember on the way home from college, I'd stop by church and I'd just sit there. And I'd sit there for 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours. And it seemed effortless, it seemed timeless, it seemed incredible, unbelievable, amazing, all those sorts of things. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize it. Looking back, it became very clear to me that, I was doing an apprenticeship in the classroom of silence. In my book, A Call to Joy, one of my earliest, which I wrote in '97, I wrote, "You can learn more in an hour of silence than you can in a year from books." I believe that to be true. I believe that when we spend time regularly in silence, reconnecting with ourselves, reconnecting with our God, that we learn powerful lessons that we could read for hours and hours and hours and not learn anything as powerful, anything as profound, or anything as practical and useful in our lives. And so silence has always been a great theme in all of my speaking and all of my writing. Spending time each day in silence, in prayer and reflection is a life-changing habit. I hope by now you've established this habit in your life, and I hope it's a habit that you will stay with and continue to honor yourself and your God through this habit for the rest of your life. It's an incredibly powerful habit. What does it do? What does prayer do? It teaches us how to live, and it teaches us how to love. It was there in the classroom of silence, spending hours just sitting there in the presence of God, that I first heard God laugh. It was an extraordinary experience. It wasn't the only experience I've had of that. And it's an experience that I very much hope that you will have if you dedicate yourself to spending time each day in prayer, if you make it a discipline, if you make it a sacred obligation, if you make it a sacred space in your schedule each and every day, that little by little you will get to know God in ways that you've never heard about, in ways that you've never experienced. How long does it take? Well, it takes a long time. You know, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to master the principles of almost anything. If you want to be good at anything, if you want to master the principles of anything, it takes a long time, and it's going to take a long time to master the principles of prayer. Some of them are incredibly difficult. And the most difficult principles of prayer to master are the ones that require us to do nothing. Because we have a bias towards action. We have a bias towards action. And so when we sit in the classroom of silence and God says, just be, just do nothing. Let me do the heavy lifting. Let me work on you and in you and with you and through you. It's incredibly difficult. These are the most difficult lessons to learn and to live in the spiritual life. The ones that surrender to God all the power that is His and cooperate with Him humbly for whatever it is He is calling us to in that moment.